So let's begin by looking at some message tracking scenarios for Exchange Server 2013. Now you saw in that previous lesson, I used the Exchange Remote Connectivity Analyzer to send an inbound mail message to one of my test lab users, Alex Hain. So let's see if we can track that message using the tools that are provided by Exchange. So we'll go into the Exchange Admin Center where I'm already logged in, and go to the mail flow section and click on delivery reports. I'll search Alex's mailbox and we'll search for messages received from there's messages received from admin@testexchangeconnectivity.com, which is the email address used by that Exchange Remote Connectivity Analyzer when it sends those test messages. So let's see if that search turns up any results. We can see that there were two different messages received at two different times, about 20 minutes or so apart. We can look at the details of either of those messages, and that gives us some information about the events or the different stages that the message went through as it was delivered through the organization. So initially it was received by the Exchange server, transferred to itself, so that's the message being transferred between different transport services on the server itself, and then finally delivered into the database. Now in a more complex Exchange organization, you might see other hops here, edge transport servers or internet facing servers or servers in a main site as the message traverses through multiple sites. But you do get a little bit of useful information here for these delivery reports. So this search capability is reasonably useful, but it's not as powerful as one of the other ways of doing searches for mail that's flowing through the organization, and that is to do message tracking log searches in Powershell. So let's go into the Exchange Management Shell, and the command that we use is get message tracking log. In a multi-server environment, you could use the server switch to nominate which server you actually want to search. You can nominate multiple servers to search as well, but since I'm just running this on my Exchange server, I don't need to use that switch at this time. Now there's a few different parameters that we can use for this search. We can use sender, we can use recipients, and we can also use message subject. So let's say that we only know the recipient. We only know that Alex Hain was the recipient of the message. And we also know that the message was received within the last 30 minutes or so. So we can set a start time on our search and use get date and add -30 minutes to the current date, and that will search everything from 30 minutes ago to the current time. Okay, so there you go, we get some results there. Now that in itself is reasonably useful, but we can produce some slightly more readable output. And one of the first things that I would suggest you do is capture those results into a variable, such as messages. And what that means is you can then use those captured results that are in that variable, and you can sort of slice and dice them in different ways in PowerShell without having to rerun the query every single time. Now for very, very large queries, this is much more efficient because you don't have to run, say, a query that might take 90 seconds to return results. You don't have to run that every single time that you just want to filter the information in a slightly different way. So let's run that command again, and we'll add messages equals in front of it. So you can see there's my results. Another message generated by my script has popped into the results there as well, so that's fine. That actually helps us with this demonstration. One useful way to look at this information is to sort it by timestamp. And sometimes you get a slightly different order of events. So you can see here that when I wasn't sorting by timestamp, I had a different order of events than when I do sort by timestamp. And sorting by timestamp is a much more useful way to look at this information, of course, because it will show you the message tracking log events in their correct sequential sequence. So we've got some of these other results that are in our way here. We only want to see the results that were from the sender, admin at testexchangeconnectivity.com. So let's just filter that down a little bit. Now, one of the ways that PowerShell is more useful for doing these message tracking log searches is that you can start to use things like wildcards and partial matches. So whereas previously we can't run in the previous example, we can't run a get message tracking log search and use a sender of asterisk at testexchangeconnectivity.com because we get no results. Okay, so you can't do wildcard searches on senders and recipients. You can't do partial matches either. But what you can do once you've captured a broader search query into a variable is you can start to filter those down. So let's say instead of knowing exactly who the sender was, we were only aware that the message had come from a particular domain, but we didn't know the full sender address. We could do a match on the domain name and we get the same results there. So you could do that for Gmail or Hotmail or another company's domain where all you're aware of is that the mail came from that domain, not who the specific sender was. Now if we pipe these out into a format list, we obviously get to see all of the detail for each of those events, which is a lot more detailed than just that sort of summary table view we were seeing in the standard output. And you can scroll through and read every event and all of the details and the timestamps, exactly what happened to that message as it went through the organization. As you can see, this is much more detailed than that delivery report we get when we're searching in the Exchange Admin Center. So you can see some of that useful information there, such as the IP address that the message was originating from, or that particular hop was originating from. Some latency information there, which may be relevant in very large organizations, global organizations where message latency can be quite high as messages are going around the world. And the final deliver events there as well. So hopefully you're getting a few ideas there about how PowerShell can be used for message tracking log searches. In the next video, we're going to look at just another example of this for tracking down a failed message.